All aboard! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, basketball fans of all ages, I am Beast Mikey. You've now arrived in my train of thought. It's time to talk about the NBA Power Rankings, the final NBA Power Rankings of the regular season. Let's not waste any more time because the season ends on Sunday. Let's get to business. And we're going to start, as always, with the Eurostar Zombie Tier. Washington, $9 tickets. That's right. For the price of an Alexander Hamilton, you can go watch the Washington Wizards play the Chicago Bulls. Now, I don't know why you would do such a thing, but that's the price of a Washington Wizards ticket just to get in the door. There may be more expensive tickets, not by much, I'm sure, to actually go watch this team or those two teams play, but it's a thing. Washington, fortunately, doesn't have too many games left on their schedule, as no team really does, and this season can miserably end, and Washington has pretty much claimed a spot in the top four of the top three of the draft lottery, where, as we know, the top three teams will get 14% in terms of the first overall pick. Washington, fortunately, is going to get one of these three spots. The only question is, who amongst the main terrible five are going to be in the other two spots? I guess we'll see. Utah, prepare for Mammoth. Yes, that Zamboni machine that the Mammoth are playing with is spectacular and is amazing. I am here for it. I am so glad it's a thing. It is one of the best creations we've seen in a long time. Yes, the Utah Jazz are awful, but I think that's par for the course. That's what we've expected of them all year, and they're ending with a bang. They're ending with a 10-game losing streak as of now. They could obviously make it a whole lot worse, but it's a 10-game losing streak as of now, and it's probably as expected. Some of them of the beating variety, some of them of the, okay, it's kind of relatively close, cool, whatever. I do like some of their younger guys on this team, and I do think they can be something eventually. But for now, it's not great. Plus, I guess the other question is, okay, what do you do with Walker Kessler? How are you going to move him in the offseason? Or are you just going to go with the three bigs lineup eventually next year with Kessler, Markkanen, and Triple J? How are you going to move this? Because you have two pure centers in Kessler and Triple J, and then Markkanen, who's a very good and capable stretch four. What do you do, especially when you have Ace Bradley on your team as well, who also is a pretty good three and a pretty good wing? Decisions got to be made by the Jazz, and they got to make them quickly. The decision to lose games, well, that's kind of obvious. Indiana, NBA's Panthers. I kind of spoke about this with the Florida Panthers thought in the NHL Power Rankings yesterday, where I think that they are the fairest equivalent of each other. The Panthers having a spectacular run. Obviously, they lose their best player to a torn Achilles, and their season basically fell apart from there. In the case of the Panthers, they had a bunch of injuries sporadically throughout the year. Sasha Barkov had an injury, and Matthew Tkachuk had an injury. Like, they had a whole bunch of disastrous parts of their season and decided basically to chalk it up pretty much at the winter break and went from there. That's kind of how their season went. For Indiana's case, losing Halliburton and then Miles Turner in free agency in the span of a week, that effectively was the damage, and the span of a couple weeks, I should say. That effectively was the end of their season before it even started. I do love the trade of Zubac, though. I think that's going to really help them out. They'll get Halliburton back, and as long as they keep their pick, the Pacers are going to be in real good shape. There is a chance they lose the pick. It's a top four protected lottery pick. Otherwise, it goes to the Clippers. So that is something to pay attention to for the NBA draft lottery. Brooklyn, hosting Super Tank. There's one thing I didn't mention about Indiana, though. I didn't mention that the Nets and Pacers will be playing each other, and their stakes are pretty simple. The loser might have an inside track at one of the top three spots in the NBA draft lottery in terms of the 14% I talked about before. And the odds get a little bit less as they go on. And if we've learned anything over the last few years, you don't necessarily need to be the worst team in the league to get the number one overall pick. I mean, the Pistons have tried for years in this, and it's failed horribly for them. So this could be a vital game, and for that matter, it can be a huge deciding factor as to where teams go. And I guess in the case of Indiana, they could absolutely lose their pick if they fall a little bit further than they want to. In the case of the Nets, I'm not sure if there's a team more so than them in the Eastern Conference that absolutely needs to win the draft lottery. I would say Utah and the next team I'm going to talk about are probably teams that need to win it more than Brooklyn. But I think in the Nets case, no team in the East needs it more than they do. The team I'm talking about that needs it just as bad or more so than the Nets, Sacramento. Only 2 left. And that's the case for a lot of these teams. Only 2 games left in their miserable seasons, and the Kings can finally shut it down and chalk it up. It's wild to think about what was this team a couple of years ago, where they were the Light the Beam Kings, and De'Aaron Fox was moving really well with Domantas Sabonis and company, and the Kings were maybe a Fox game winner away in Game 4 from winning the series in 5 against Golden State and moving on to round 2. The fact that the Kings have cratered that badly since is absolutely insane, where Fox is the, at worst, 3rd best player on a title contender in San Antonio, and you got minimal back for him. It's been a rough couple of years for Sacramento, a team that absolutely has to get this draft pick right no matter where it lands, and they probably need the first pick the most in the NBA. Well, them in Utah. We'll see what Sacramento can actually do with this, if anything. Memphis, Chicago, and 9. That is effectively their record. They're 1-9 in their last 10. They're ending the season disastrously. They have been pretty miserable down the stretch, and this is another team that needs to win this draft lottery in the worst way, and or just get a clear path of their future somewhere right in this next couple of months. How do they pick up the pieces from what they've been trying to do? And the fact that they can't move Ja Morant kind of makes life worse. What do you do now? How do you figure this out? Do you buy out Ja Morant at this point? I mean, that bill's going to be high, but what do you even do now to move on and move forward in this era of Grizzlies basketball, where they've just been kind of stuck in the wilderness, if you will? No pun intended, of course. What do you do, Memphis? And if you don't win the lottery, or you kind of get screwed in the draft lottery, how do you move even then? You do have at least Phoenix's picks, so you're going to have 2 higher-end first-round picks, but still, it's a miserable situation, and a similar one to the Kings, where you had heights of heights with a high seed in the first round of the playoffs, and then get waxed by a veteran team with a future top 15 player of all time. In the case of the Grizzlies, it was LeBron and company who did it. Obviously, LeBron's second best of all time, and then you've cratered ever since. It's not great. And Dallas, the challenging part. You got the first overall pick last year, obviously. You did pretty well in making the layup and getting Cooper Flag. Good stuff. Good work there. Flag is as advertised. He's been absolutely cooking since the All-Star break, even more so than he was previously. He gave 40 to the Lakers and has had a few 40-point games since the break itself, and it obviously set the record for 50 burger, and the first to do so as a teenager, which is a tremendous feat. How do you build around him now? You obviously got Kyrie Irving's gap year, where obviously he had to rehab the ACL tear. What do you do next? I think that's the critical part. Can you get a pure point guard and or get Kyrie back? I would probably do both in this case. Dallas could be something if they do this right. But do they have the right people to do this? That, I guess, is the question. We're going to go to the UK Pacer Monkey's Paw Tier. Chicago. Finally some change. So there's good news and bad news for what the Bulls just did. The good news is they're wiping their front office clean. They fired their GM. They fired their VP of basketball ops. Good. I think that's necessary. It needed to be done. But here's the bad news. CEO and President Michael Reinsdorf of the Bulls decided to say, you know what, we're going to handcuff whoever the general manager is to Billy Donovan as the head coach of the team. Isn't that part of the problem, though? The fact that Donovan hasn't gotten the best out of these players, and they've basically been stuck in mid until finally cratering this year. Isn't that the biggest issue here, though? It doesn't feel like that's doing a service to whoever the GM is going to be and whoever the VP of basketball ops will also be. That doesn't make much sense to me. It feels like they're going to kind of be stuck, and they're kind of want to be stuck and stubborn in their own way. Doesn't feel like a good look. Chicago's going to have to get this right and get this right fast, because if they don't, the gap between them and the rest of the real contenders in the Eastern Conference will widen. New Orleans, month-long limbo. This is kind of where the Pelicans are right now. They are stuck because they don't have control of their pick at all, and the right to swap is incredibly real. They could absolutely swap with Atlanta and end up with the number 1 overall pick again, only for it to go to the Hawks and for them to have the number 1 pick again. This could be a really rough time for New Orleans after that trade they made last year, where it could be buyer's remorse, and it definitely looks like it could be a devastating setback to whatever may happen for their future. Speaking of which, what do you do with this future? Zion was actually pretty solid when he was on the court this year, and for the first time in his career, it felt like he was on the court for a considerable amount of time. How do you build around him and Troy Murphy and Derek Queen? I guess that's the questions I have here for this Pelicans squad. And can you get anything out of DeJounte Murray, who only played 14 games thus far this season and has been kind of sort of a disastrous trade acquisition for them? New Orleans, you got some work to do, and it's going to start with some hopes and prayers that you don't completely burn having to swap the first overall pick to Atlanta. That would be kind of devastating. Milwaukee, worst case year. Milwaukee, yes, they do keep their pick. Okay, cool, fine. They do get their first overall pick. Unfortunately, unless they get lottery luck, here's the problem. They weren't bad enough to be truly awful, and yet they weren't good enough to be anywhere close to the playoffs. It feels like it's been an abject disaster since they decided to hire Doc Rivers as their head coach, when the Bucks were looking like a title contender and the best team in the East, with Giannis and Dame both playing at incredibly high levels. They've never recovered from this, and their defense has been bad, and they ran into the worst possible matchup back-to-back years, and then Dame tore his Achilles in the second year, only for them to waive Dame and had to eat that contract. It's been an abject disaster. And now there's the drama with Giannis and whether he can get out and wants to get out of Milwaukee. Honestly, they should trade him while they still have value for him. Don't Mike Trout him and do what the Angels are doing and wasting Mike Trout's career. Just trade him and get what you can for him while you still can't get it. Otherwise, it feels like it's been a pretty much disaster class of the year. Except for Ryan Rollins. He's been pretty good. Golden State. Play-in preview. It's on the board that Golden State is going to be able to play the Clippers in the play-in game 9 versus 10, and the winner obviously plays the loser of 7-8, as we know. On Sunday, these two teams will actually play each other in Los Angeles. Now, we've seen in years past these two teams play each other to end the respective season, and it worked out horribly for the Warriors, as they lost to Golden State, had to be subjected to the play-in, and got waxed in said play-in. It was not great, and things did not go well for them. So it could be an incredibly crucial game. Now, the other part to this is that the Clippers have to fall to the 9 seed. They are currently 8, and Portland could absolutely leap them. It's just a matter of whether they will or not. It's only a game difference, with the Clippers being the superior one in terms of the game difference. Can Golden State win either way, whether it's in Los Angeles or it's in Portland? I guess we'll see. Miami. Aside from Wizards, it's been a brutal stretch. It's been an absolutely brutal stretch of terrible defense, or, well, really the lack thereof, defensively. And this horrible run of form for pretty much the last month or so has relegated Miami to the 10th spot in the play-in tournament, where now they have to win 2 road games to guarantee themselves a playoff spot. It's been that bad for the Heat, aside from playing the Wizards, who they routinely seem to hang $150 on. They get one more chance for some reason to hang $150 or more on Washington tomorrow night in DC. So I guess get your tickets, which will probably be like, the last I saw, they were $20. They'll probably be cheaper by game time. And speaking of which, that's the app I'm looking at for these tickets. And I promise you I'm not sponsored by them yet. I will let you know if I am, when that happens. Anyway, the Heat have been miserable when it comes to playing defense. They gave up $121 to Toronto and got waxed, almost got beat by 30. And they have a chance to repeat this process tonight, which is rather unfortunate. And they'll probably give up $115 to 20 yet again and get beat. That's kind of how this works as of now. In theory, Miami is pretty much out once we get to the play-in game, no matter who their opponent will be. I guess the question is, who's going to kick Miami out of the playoffs? I guess we'll see. Portland, most meaningful since. I would argue that the Blazers are about to play their most meaningful game since the last time they were in the playoffs with fans. The last Dame playoff year where he went God mode against the Nuggets and almost single-handedly helped beat the Joker and knock him out the playoffs. Now, Joker was without Jamal Murray as a sidekick in this case, but Dame Lillard was basically unguardable, unstoppable, undeniable, and still lost because he got no help. It was unfortunate for Portland. Since then, the Blazers have been an abject mess. Dame Lillard's obviously been traded and now brought back, and now Dame's basically chilling as a kind of a coach, if you will, honorary speaking, since he's going to be out for a little bit longer with the Achilles tear that he had in Milwaukee. And now Portland, fortunately, has found a way out of the wilderness, if you will, and they're going to be actually able to host a playoff game if things go right, whether they're the 9 seed or they lose as the 7-8 matchup and get to host the 9-10 winner. It's on the board. Portland gets a home game. And I'm actually happy for the Blazers in this case. Last night, they fought the Spurs hard. They just didn't have enough, even though the Spurs didn't have their 2 best defensive players in Castle and Wemby. Kind of unfortunate there, but there are levels to this, and Portland's quite honestly on the 3rd or 4th level in the West, which is better than what they were, but that's still where they are currently. And Phoenix, Spurs or Thunder? Sure, it's like being between a rock and a hard place. I get it, understood. The winner of the 7-8 matchup is probably all but dealing with a quick gentleman's sweep by the Spurs, and the loser is hoping to get to a gentleman's and or actual sweep by the Thunder. I get it, understood. But in Phoenix's case, it's still better than what they were, and that is a positive sign, similar to what the Blazers are, and probably a little bit more so because I don't think anybody had faith in Phoenix doing anything productive this season. Good on Phoenix for that. You win your next game, you're guaranteed 7, and then you can rest up and get ready to go for the 7-8 matchup, and whoever has to come to the Valley of the Sun to deal with you, whether it be the Blazers or the Clippers. Which, honestly, if I were Phoenix, I'd probably rather face Portland, but that's just me. And can Jeff Green do what he needs to? Can he show up, unlike he did last year, where he was not really very good in the playoffs at all for the Rockets? Can he show up in this playing game? I gotta have it playing game. And obviously, Devin Booker, I trust in him to show up. The question is, will he? And will they get out of this play-in tournament to go face San Antonio and or Oklahoma City? I guess we'll see. We're going to go take the California Zephyr to the playoff tier. Philadelphia. Seriously? Again? It feels like every so often, like every 2 weeks, it's that Joel Embiid has some sort of injury that keeps him out long term. Whether it's a knee, whether it's an ankle, whether it's a shoulder, whether it's a wrist, like it's an operation. You can have the giant operation billboard and kind of like put the particular buzzers at various points of injuries. Now, this one is not necessarily one that you saw coming, and no one did, honestly. He's got appendicitis surgery, and he's going to undergo that in Houston, and he's, as we speak even, I'm sure, and we don't know exactly when he's going to return. They haven't put a timetable on it yet, and it's unfortunate because the Sixers were actually playing legitimately good basketball since his, Maxey's, and Paul George's return. It looked like a pretty well-functioning team. But now you lose arguably your most important player, I would say, because of the amount of bigs in the East. You need Embiid horribly. He's still probably your most talented player. And it's looking like it's going to be bad for a Sixers team that needed to win this game and needs to win this game to avoid falling even further in the play-in. Now, sure, they're good enough to make the playoffs and play in minimum, but as far as we can tell, they are in trouble of falling to the 9-10 matchup with Miami. And I don't think anybody really wants to see that, but it's a thing that can absolutely happen because Embiid's not playing. We'll see how long Embiid's out for. Orlando, good timing. The Magic for a few weeks now have been sluggish and struggling and looking bad, and it's been pretty ugly. But the last week or so, they've gotten it together. They've won 4 straight, they're 6-4 in their last 10, and have somehow kind of gotten their act together. Good job. Sure, you caught a break without Cade Cunningham, and you caught a break without Anthony Edwards. Fine. You played 2 of the best teams in the league and still won without their best players. Understood. You did what you needed to do. That is good. Good on you. Now, can Orlando keep this going and keep this up? They are currently in a good spot to, at minimum, be the 7th seed, giving them 2 home games for the play-in, or avoid it altogether and end up swiping the spot from Toronto. They're only a half game behind the Raptors and a full game behind the Hawks to not only win the division, in Atlanta's case, but to avoid the play-in altogether, which I'm sure most teams would prefer to, despite the ticket revenue that the owners would get based off having the building open once, maybe twice. Orlando is still in play here. I don't know how far they go upon getting to the playoffs, but at the very least, they are at least getting right at the right time. Good job. LA Clippers, decent finish. Another team that's getting right at the right time. Good on you, LA Clippers, for this. Now, it's disappointing for them, I'm sure, that the fact that the Clippers have played better than what a lot of people have expected, and the best they can do is going to be 7th in the Western Conference, but that's still a decent route to go here for Los Angeles. And with Kawhi Leonard being mostly healthy for a lot of the season, Darius Garland playing relatively well, and the Clippers as a whole looking like a respectable team, they're going to probably give some teams some scares. I'm sure they don't want to see San Antonio again, but as of this moment in time, if they stay 8 and beat Phoenix, that's the route they get. It's at least progress, and if they get some lottery luck, they might have a top 5 to 7 pick, which, again, progress. Good on the Clippers for that. Can the Clippers get lucky in the lottery? I guess we'll see, based off what may happen with Indiana. Toronto, playing Gotham. And this is a way for Toronto to avoid the play-in completely. You win these 2 games against the Knicks and Nets, and obviously the former will be a little tougher than the latter, then, yeah, you avoid the play-in completely, and you end up, at minimum, the 6th seed. Good. Toronto could avoid that. They've been decent in their last 10 fine. They've been able to bury the Heat, and they actually have 3 games left, I should say. They got one with Miami tonight, and who they just destroyed a couple of nights ago in Toronto. They run it back, and then they will be able to play both the New York teams. One in the Garden against the Knicks, and one against the Nets at home. Okay. Probably win 2 of these 3 games, you should be good to go. Win all 3 of them, you may even get the 5 seed, which gets you Cleveland, which I guess is a pretty decent thing, considering Toronto's defense is respectable. My big worry about the Raptors is that amongst the Eastern Conference teams, they are the worst at scoring the basketball that are going to make the play-in or playoffs. It's pretty bad. It's pretty rough. They're 10th worst in scoring in the NBA, which is disappointing. Believe it or not, Boston's 11th worst, but there's a good excuse for why the Celtics are there. Anyway, when it comes to the Raptors, them versus Cleveland could actually be interesting because they're good at actually stopping people from scoring, and they're top 10 defense in terms of points allowed. So that could be something to pay attention to when it comes to the postseason. I guess the question is going to be simple. What do you do, Toronto, to score the basketball? Can you do it enough against a high-end offense such as what Donovan Mitchell and James Harden are going to bring in the playoff series if you have to deal with them as the 5 seed? Or, for that matter, Toronto, are you good enough to deal with the Knicks, who you may see if you are the 6th seed? I guess we'll see that. Charlotte, a terrible draw. That's what the Hornets are kind of dealing with down the stretch here. And if Charlotte is going to avoid the play-in, they're going to have to absolutely earn it. Their last couple of games are absolutely brutal. They only have 2 left. That's the good news. They just lost to Boston a couple of nights ago, which is not great. But the last 2 games they have left, they host Detroit, and they go play the Knicks. Detroit just got Cade Cunningham back, and they obviously had a fight the last time they were in Charlotte, which could make for a very interesting 1 versus 8 if that's the route that happens here. However, if it's 3 versus 6 and they get the Knicks, that could also be fun. And I say that simply because of the way Charlotte can shoot and the way that the Knicks sometimes, other than Jalen Brunson, can struggle to get consistent scoring. I would really like to see that and see if the Knicks can deal with all those guys that Charlotte is going to throw at the 3-point line with Ball and Bridges and Brandon Miller and Concanupal, who if Cooper Flagg weren't in this rookie class, he'd be the rookie of the year because he's been tremendous this year making threes. I think this could be a very fun, intriguing series if we get it. Either one, to be honest, could be fun. Charlotte could be a sneaky team. I don't know if they're winning round 1, but they're going to take somebody to 6. I really believe that. Atlanta, another playoff preview. Now, last night, Atlanta played against Cleveland in what was a pretty entertaining game, but ultimately a win for the Cavaliers. Okay, fine, Atlanta put up a fight, it just couldn't finish. Cool, understood, understandable. Friday night, they run it back, but this time it's in Atlanta, as opposed to last night in Cleveland. These 2 teams are 2-1 against each other, Cleveland having the 2. So it's on the board that these 2 teams could play each other as the 4-5, and we get another 4 to 7 of these 2 teams. Okay, that might work. Now, I'm not sure how great of a matchup that could be for Atlanta, considering how well Cleveland can play defense. But I do think this would be a fun, intriguing matchup to have here, and how the young Hawks who don't have too much playoff experience now that Trae Young's obviously gone. How do they fare? How do they function against a Cavaliers team full of playoff experience and full of playoff wounds and scars of war in the playoffs, if you will? How does Atlanta fare here under these bright lights? And are the lights too bright for Cleveland? I guess something that Cleveland's going to have to deal with, and something Atlanta will have to deal with too. LA Lakers, window slammed shut. That's kind of what this feels like now. They, I think, are super cooked when it comes to making a playoff run without Luka and then Austin Reeves, who both had devastating injuries that effectively knocks them out for the rest of the regular season, and then we'll see playoff-wise. We'll see if Luka comes back and could potentially get there for maybe a game 3 or 4 in round 1, and we'll see if Reeves can get back sooner than that or a little later than that. I guess we'll see. The Lakers, without 2 of their 3 best players, are, I think, in deep, deep trouble, considering the Western Conference is absolutely nasty. As of now, they're the 4 seed, and they play the Rockets. The Rockets are the second hottest team in the West right now. That's not great. As much as Houston is not to be trusted with a lead, the fact that the Lakers are going to be that shorthanded against a Rockets team that can absolutely score, that's a problem, and a huge one at that. Not to mention the fact that even mostly relatively healthy, they played the Thunder, and things started bad and got progressively worse, and then Luka got hurt. You could probably guess what happened as they ran it back on Tuesday night at Staples, or Crypto. I will always call it Staples pretty much. And the Thunder basically took the 1 seed back to Oklahoma City with them. It was not great for LA. I think they're cooked. I think this is going to be done and done quickly, regardless of who they play in round 1. I think this is probably a 4 or 5 game series. They just don't have enough firepower, to be honest. I think with just LeBron as one of their main guys that can score and keep up. Yes, LeBron will do what he can. I just don't think he can do enough without Luka and without Reeves being either co-stars or, in the case of Luka, the star in Los Angeles. And Minnesota, no stakes until next weekend, where Minnesota's effectively locked in to the 6th seed. There's nowhere for them to really go, and I think it's probably for the best, so they can actively rest Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, Rudy Gobert, all their veterans. They don't really have to do much of anything, and it's a shame because I would love to see them play Houston in round 1 of the playoffs. Those games with the Rockets have been incredibly entertaining and incredibly emotional. I would love to see them play Houston, but it seems like it's unlikely we're going to get that route. Instead, right now, the Timberwolves are the 6th seed, and they play the Nuggets round 1, and I think that would be also incredibly entertaining. We saw what happened a couple of years ago, where Minnesota dethroned the then NBA champions by beating them in 7 games and a 7th game in Denver. They also beat them by 50 in Game 6, which was kind of wild. But that would be a fun series too, so I'd be okay with either series. Minnesota's going to be a very tough out because of how physical they play and how well Anthony Edwards can play in the playoffs. He does up his game in the postseason. Minnesota doesn't really have to do anything until then, which I think is a huge deal. They can rest and get ready to roll next weekend. And now we're going to go to the VSOE title series. Cleveland, 3 seed possible. Considering who the Cavaliers have left on their schedule, it is incredibly possible that they steal the 3 spot from the Knicks. Who does Cleveland have, you ask? I already told you about the Atlanta game. They run it back tomorrow night in A-Town. Their last game? Well, it's a free win against the Wizards, so they should handle that without much of a problem. At which point, all the Cavaliers really have to do is watch. And a couple of Knicks losses would give Cleveland the number 3 seed. Now, they're going to need 2 of them because if these 2 teams end up tied, the Knicks do have head-to-head tiebreaker. The Knicks won 2-1 in terms of their season series. So Cleveland's going to need a couple of losses by the Knicks. The Knicks do have a couple of opponents, all 3 of them opponents, to be honest, all need the games in question that they play against the Knicks. So it is on the board that it can happen. Will the Knicks play bad enough to make it happen? We'll see. Cleveland's been white hot, winning 8 of 10 in 4 straight, so the Cavaliers do have a good amount of momentum going into this postseason. Speaking of the Knicks, they are next. Round 2 rematch? In about a half hour, or probably by the time I'm finished recording and editing all this, the Knicks are going to be playing the Celtics. And if Boston wins, they get the 2 seed. And if the Knicks win, they kind of sort of keep the Cavaliers off their backs for now. That is also in play here, high stakes, high drama. And I would like to think that Boston and the Knicks probably want to face each other in round 2 once again because of their rivalry and drama. And it kind of helps Jason Tatum get back to the scene of the crime, if you will, with the Achilles tear that he had. My big concern about the Knicks still stands, though. Other than Jalen Brunson, how many other guys can be consistent enough to keep scoring in the NBA playoffs when it's go time? That especially means Karl-Anthony Towns. How consistent can you be when it is absolutely time to get this going? And it would be a real failure if the Knicks don't get back to round 3 like they did last year with Thibodeau. Now that they don't have him and they allegedly have better depth, can the Knicks get back to the conference final or further? I guess we'll have to see. And tonight would be a really good test against a healthy Boston team. Houston, excellent timing. Like the previous 2 teams I talked about in the East, the Rockets are one of the hottest in the West, and they have absolutely gotten their act together. They looked shaky and flimsy. I still don't necessarily trust them with leads down the stretch against capable teams, but they have looked way better as of the last couple of weeks. They've won 7 straight and have looked like a team that is ready to go for the playoffs. Now, I don't trust their lack of guard play, or at least efficient enough guard play. That's still a concern to me. But the Rockets are rolling, and that is a really good sign for Houston. They are not locked into the 5 seed. They're not going to be any worse than 5. They will probably end up overtaking the Lakers at minimum for home court in round 1, which should be fine. And I think anybody would want to play the Lakers as of now without Luka involved, considering the God mode month he had in March. Houston is in a pretty good spot here. I don't love their matchup odds for round 2 when dealing with the Nuggets, Spurs, or Thunder, but for round 1, they're in good shape. Denver, another statement win. They have been the only team since the middle of February to beat the Spurs, and they've done it twice. And in both instances, both their main guys have showed up and shown out. Well, really, Jokic has. Jokic had the 30, 20, 10 triple-double in the Spur game in San Antonio, and then had a 40-burger and a spectacular game against Wemby and company in the rematch last Saturday. What was a great game, and it felt like a playoff game. And it was incredibly physical for both teams. It was a tremendous game, and it could be a preview of what's to come in round 2 of the NBA playoffs if both teams get that far. The Nuggets look good. It wasn't just Murray and Jokic. It was Christian Brown making shots. It was Aaron Gordon making shots. It was pretty much everyone coming together for Denver to make it happen and to get this win and effectively kind of sort of steal a game, because San Antonio had a 2-possession lead late and just couldn't finish. Denver basically usurped San Antonio as the hottest team in the game as they've won 10 straight. And at this, the question is, will they be able to keep the 3 seed? You see, these last 2 games for the Nuggets are probably the worst draw you could possibly end up with. They got the Spurs and the Thunder as their last 2 games. They host OKC, and then they go to San Antonio. Now, the Thunder and Spurs are locked into their respective seeding, so it does beg the question of whether those 2 teams will actually play their guys. But obviously, they're going to be off for the next week. Both the Spurs and the Thunder will be. So will they play their guys? And will Denver have to play their guys, considering they're a game and a half up on the Rockets and Lakers with the 3 seed in place? That's the other big critical part here. Does Denver have to play their guys by the time they get to the Spurs game? Or will they be locked in and then they can kind of chill out with Jokic and Murray and keep things moving towards the playoffs and their real season beginning? Detroit, glad Cade's back. I'm so happy that he got back in time for these playoffs, because I want to see this Detroit team with a real shot with full strength. I'm very happy about that. And they're going to have to be to deal with Boston and maybe the Knicks and maybe the Cavs in round 2 or whoever it may be coming up. The 1 seed's already locked up, and they can kind of rest and relax for a week and then prepare for the playoffs, which, sure, rest versus rust is a real thing. But for a team as young as Detroit, I guess it shouldn't hurt them too much, right? They got some experience last year, so in theory, they should know what to do with it. I'm glad Detroit is at full strength, and that's the point here, is that the Pistons will be able to go into these playoffs with a fair shot and a fair fight against the other behemoths in the Eastern Conference, if you will. Now, can they beat any of those behemoths? That's going to be the interesting question to consider. Boston, win and second. That's where the Celtics are as of this moment in time. You beat the Knicks tonight, you're the 2 seed, and you can do the same thing that Detroit can do. Rest and chill out and get a week off and then prepare for whatever may come in the play-in matchup and whoever you may see as the 7th seed, which, to be honest, in almost every circumstance and situation, it's probably a gentleman's sweep. If it's the Sixers, it may be a full sweep considering Embiid's the one mismatch they could possibly have against the Celtics, and he might not be around. There really isn't a matchup in the play-in game, no matter who Boston would seed, that Boston shouldn't win in 5. It really isn't one. Except for maybe the Hornets, who would give them a run because they can shoot. Aside from that, I don't see anything that would result in anything more in the 5-game series against anybody in the potential thought process or bubble to play Boston in round 1 of these playoffs. The Celtics should be okay, and I think them getting a week's rest, especially for Tatum and for Jaylen Brown, who's basically had to almost solo carry a lot of the Celtic team, a lot of the Celtic load for a lot of this season, it'll be good for Boston to get a little bit of time off, and then they can ready to roll with this veteran team that knows how to do this and knows how to win. Boston's going to be dangerous, and they're going to be terrifying, and I'm imagining a lot of people's pick to come out of the East. But now the 2 behemoths in the West. Oklahoma City, another 1 seed. It seemed like the most obvious thing that was going to happen this year, that the Thunder were going to get to the 1 seed. But how they got there with the injuries to SGA and especially Jalen Williams is to be commended and is to be respected. The Thunder basically destroyed almost everything in front of them when they were at full strength. And in some cases, they were able to do it when they weren't at full strength, which, to be honest, is incredibly impressive. Even with SGA missing some time, he is eligible to win MVP once again. He's already got the 65 games threshold in place. So it's on the board. He becomes a 2-time MVP once again because of his efficiency. The fact that he's giving you 30 a night is absolutely cooking. Now, for the Thunder, I guess it's simple. It's not, I don't think, the cakewalk that most of the Western Conference turned into for them last year, especially if they see Denver and or San Antonio in rounds 2 or 3. And maybe that's the other part to this, where in a perfect world for the Thunder, they avoid Denver round 2 and they end up having to face only Denver or the Spurs in round 3. I think that would be the best case scenario for them. Maybe Minnesota can give them a run as well, just because of their physicality. I just don't know they have enough shooting to keep up with OKC. I think the only team that honestly can beat them in a best of 7 is San Antonio. Play 2 games. That's all that Wemby needs to win the Defensive Player of the Year and possibly the MVP and usurp SGA for said award. Since he missed last night's game, he has to get to 65. He's only at 63. And it'll be a real shame for him for the 2nd straight year to be denied Defensive Player of the Year because he didn't play enough games. Last year, obviously, the blood clot issue. This year, he had the ribs injury on Monday against the Sixers. He did not come back for the second half of that game. Then the Spurs still held it down anyway without him. And as we can see, the Spurs can beat a lot of decent teams without Victor Wembanyama in the lineup. And they even beat the Blazers last night without Stephen Castle in the lineup either. Why? Because it's like it's always been. Like I've always said it was. It's not just Wemby. It can be Castle. It can be De'Aaron Fox. It can be Vassell. It can be Bryant. It can be Champagnie. It can be Keldon Johnson like it was last night. He's going to win 6th Man of the Year, by the way. It can be any host of people getting it done for this Spurs team, not just, at worst, the 3rd or 4th best player in the NBA right now. So there you have it. That is this week's NBA Power Rankings. And that'll be the final one, like I said, for this regular season. Predictions will be coming next week. Whether they are play-in or playoffs, I will decide that by Miami Mock Mondays. Speaking of which, that's the next video. Miami Mock Mondays. We got 3 more to go. 2 more on Mondays and 1 more on the first night of the draft. We'll see how I am graded for this next installment. It'll be V12, if you will. And then after the draft ends up, I will do baseball power rankings, and we'll have some obviously good data on who is where currently in Major League Baseball. So look out for that as well in May. But the 11th pick of the NFL draft for the Miami Dolphins is the first stop of my next train of thoughts.